The committee will come to order. The clerk will call the roll. I don't have, Mr. Clerk, I don't have any. Yeah.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mark me present, please. Hopefully, this will get resolved quickly. I do have a couple of announcements. Senate Bill 363, Senator Donovan's bill, will be passed by for the day, and Senate Bill 7, Senator Saslaw's bill, will also be passed by the day, for the day. We are going to take Senator Edwards' bill, Senate Bill 564 first. Senator Edwards.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 564, dealing with hearing losses. I believe it was reported out of subcommittee. The fiscal impact is fairly minor. I think 2 positions. But it's important that we have these positions in order to make sure that we have both sign and English taught to students. This is an alternative. It's not the only way, but it's an important way. So, and it does small, minor impact of two positions, I believe. And I believe I'll move the bill be reported and the clause be added.
Okay, first let's have a motion on adding the clause. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then the motion to report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 564 be reported. All in favor, record your votes aye. And record me, please. Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is reported. Thank you. We are now going to go into subcommittee reports. These bills that are coming up have all been heard in subcommittee, and they have all had opportunity for public comment. So we will not be taking additional public comment on these bills. And I would like to start with K-12. Tyler.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The K-12 Subcommittee report, the first bill before you is Senate Bill 142, Senator Donovan's. It expands the Virtual Virginia program to all public schools and requires a learning management system to be used to implement the program. The subcommittee recommends the bill be reported 4 yes, 0 no's, and I believe the patron has amendments.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And Tyler, the amendments are on line 30, after per student to insert per course. On line 31, after per to strike school division and insert course per school. And then on line 32, after the word by to insert school or.
Is there a motion on the amendments? Second. The amendments have been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, they're adopted.
The next bill is Senate Bill 4, Senator Stanley's bill. It creates the public...
Perhaps we should vote. We need a vote
sorry.
to report as amended. It's been moved and seconded that we report Senate Bill 142 as amended. All in favor, record your vote. Please record me aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Bill's reported.
The next bill is Senate Bill 4, Senator Stanley's. It creates the Public School Assistance Fund and Program to provide grants to school boards for repairing or replacing roofs of school buildings, and requires DOE to give priority on awarding these grants. The subcommittee recommends adding the clause to the bill and reporting. 3 yes, 0 no's.
It's been moved and seconded. We add the clause. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Clause is added. Is there a motion? It's been moved that the bill be reported as amended. And I assume that, and there's a second. All in favor, record your vote aye. Opposed, nay.
Yeah.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
The next bill is Senate Bill 5, Senator Stanley's. It requires the Board of Education to prescribe minimum standards for school buildings to include uniform and that they relate to modern school buildings. It also requires that school boards assess every 3 years and report to the board the extent to which each school building complies with the uniform minimum standards, and along with a long-range plan for compliance for those not meeting standards and the assessment of the cost. The subcommittee recommends adopting line amendments from the patron, amending to add the clause, and the bill be reported 4 yes, 0 no's.
Is there a motion on the clause? So moved. It's been moved and seconded. The clause be added. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Madam Chair and Senator Deeds, the other line amendment besides the clause was on line 21, after the word shall to strike annually and insert once every 3 years, which was the amendment requested by Senator Stanley.
Those amendments have been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now, is there a motion on the bill? It's been moved and seconded? And seconded that Senate Bill 5 be reported. All in favor, please record your vote. Aye.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. And as you notice, our techies got me back up and running, so thank you.
The next bill is Senate Bill 134, Senator Stewart's. This bill requires school boards to provide elementary school teachers an average of one 45-minute planning period per day. Currently, elementary school teachers are guaranteed 30 minutes, and it permits the school boards and teachers to contractually agree to compensate in lieu if the school boards cannot give the required planning time. The subcommittee passed the bill by for the day, and it is now before the committee.
And what?
It's before the committee now.
So this bill was passed by for the day and is now before the full committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
This is,
Madam Chair,
yes, Senator Newman.
I know there's a lot of desire to do this, but in subcommittee, I think we ended up with some really big fiscal numbers.
Right.
And I think we ought to do it, but we ought to fund it. And so, Madam Chair, I would move that we put the clause on the bill.
Madam Chair,
Senator Peterson.
I sit on the Ed and Health Committee. I don't remember this bill being passed. I thought it was PBI'd.
I don't believe that it was in the Ed and Health. It was in the Health, in the Education Subcommittee where those numbers were given to us, not in Ed and Health. I know, but the numbers I'm talking about came from Ed and Health.
So the motion is to put the clause on,
I'll second.
and there's a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Is there a motion then on the bill? It's been moved and
Second.
seconded that the Senate Bill 134 be reported with the clause on it. All in favor, record your votes aye. Opposed, nay.
Thirteen ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
And Madam Chair, that completes the K-12 report.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will hear the transportation report, and Jason will go through that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The subcommittee heard 5 bills. I'm going to take them slightly out of order because the recommendations for 2 of the 5 were incorporation. So I'll
Okay.
lead with the incorporation bills. Senator Hanger had Senate Bill 596, which is identical to Senator Edwards' Senate Bill 452, and would impose the regional motor fuels tax of 2.1% in any locality where a regional motor fuels tax is not currently imposed. The subcommittee unanimously 4-0 recommended incorporating Senator Hanger's bill into Senator Edwards' bill.
Is there a motion to do that? It's been moved and seconded that the bill be rolled into Senate Bill 452. Is that correct? Okay.
Senate Bill 453.
What?
Is that right?
No, sir. Senator 452 is the funding.
I think it's
Okay.
452.
All right. I got it wrong. Okay.
Yes. All right, so it's to roll it into 452. And I assume add chief co-patron and the usual. Okay. So that's the motion. All in favor, record your vote aye. Those opposed, no.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, the motion passes.
Madam Chair, the
Yes.
next incorporation,
Yes.
Senator Saslaw had Senate Bill 899 related to regional transit funding in Northern Virginia. The subcommittee recommended rolling or incorporating Senate Bill 899 into Senate Bill 890.
Senate Bill what?
890, the governor's transportation bill.
So the motion is that Senator Saslaw's bill likewise be rolled into Senator Edwards' bill.
Senator
No.
Saslaw. He had 2 bills that you would incorporate Senate Bill 899 Saslaw into Senate Bill 890.
Oh, okay, all right, good. Okay, so we will, as it was so eloquently stated, we'll roll Saslaw into Saslaw.
Right.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, should
I've been rolled. Because he's already He's the chief co-patron of the.
So you're saying to just strike 890?
Yeah, 899, and then continue with 890.
Senator Saslaw, is that okay with you, to strike 899 and continue with 890?
Well, 890, you're putting the contents of 899 into 890.
Yes. Add a substitute, but the sole purpose of the incorporation is just to be added as a chief co-patron, and you're already the patron.
Yeah, I can be patron and chief.
It's a power grab going on over here. Okay.
That's fine.
All right. So the motion would be to strike one of Senator Saslaw's bills.
899.
899, okay.
So I move that we strike 899.
Okay, is there a second?
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that 899 be stricken. All in favor, say, record your vote aye. Opposed, nay.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 899 is stricken.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't believe we reported SB 452 or acted on that before.
We were just doing, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Senator Hanger, we were just doing the 2 incorporation steps prior to getting to the voting on the
Okay.
bigger bills.
Okay, so now we are back to the main bill, 596.
452. Madam Chair. So there are two vehicles before you. Senator Edwards, Senate Bill 452, which imposes the regional motor fuels tax in certain cities and counties. So those are all the cities and counties that do not currently have a regional motor fuels tax currently imposed. The funding would be deposited to a construction district grant program account for each of those construction districts. The subcommittee has a substitute which would convert that to the fixed cents per gallon, consistent with the provisions in Senate Bill 890, and recommended reporting 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, the subcommittee recommends reporting
So
Substitute.
move.
the substitute,
Substitute,
yes.
Move we adopt the substitute, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt the substitute. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yes.
And I apologize, have another committee that conflicts with the Transportation Subcommittee, so I haven't been there. How does this 6 cents relate to the 12 cents that the governor's proposing this year?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, Senator Dietz. It would be additive in regions that do not currently have a regional sales tax imposed. So those would be any jurisdiction that is not in the I-81 corridor program that was imposed last year, Hampton Roads or Northern Virginia, which was imposed in 2013.
So basically an 18-cent increase over the next 3 years.
So not for everybody, just for the ones that don't.
Yeah.
Which puts us still way
Through the chair, please.
below West Virginia.
I got you.
Senator Sasslaw, through the chair, please. Asked to be recognized. Well, then please don't talk. Senator Hanger.
Well, it would in fact add roughly 7 cents into those areas currently not experiencing that aren't in one of those regions. However, and this would be taken up in Senator Saslaw's bill, I can't remember how we ended up, but I was an advocate for not going more than 2 years. Not, in other words, increase 4 cents each year for the next 2 years rather than locking us in at 3 years. And I would observe, Madam Chair, that when I left the valley early yesterday morning, I got some gas there for $2.12, and that's in the region where we've already added the additional 7 cents. It was $2.12. When I got to Zion's Crossroads, which is an area where there has not been 7 cents added to the tax, it was $2.33. My point being, and Senator Saslaw, I think, would agree with this, the market sets the price.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Senate, yes.
Turn your mic on.
If those of you out here remember when former Speaker Howe got his bill through, I think in 2013, he lowered the gasoline tax, the gallon tax, from 17.5 cents to 11.1, with the improviso that if the federal government did not pass the Internet Sales Tax Act on December 31st, 2015, it would go back to it would go to 16.1 cents or a 5-cent increase. Well, they didn't pass it. Later there was a Supreme Court decision, but they didn't pass it. So on December 31st, 2015, I and other distributors got a 5-cent increase, okay, in the gasoline price to reflect the 5 cents tax. 2 nights later, I got a 7-cent decrease in the wholesale price. This is how that market works, which means that the wholesale price of gas was now cheaper after the 5 cents tax was added than it was before. And that accounts for part of what you just heard from Senator Hanger, is that the taxes aren't driving this. All summer long, Madam Chairman, North Carolina at 36 cents a gallon, Virginia at 16 cents, but if you throw in the region's weighted average, it's about 22 cents, but still 14 cents below North Carolina. Their average retail unleaded price statewide was only 1.5 to 2 cents higher than Virginia. That's all, which means the distributors in Virginia were paying more than the distributors in North Carolina, which means the people in Virginia were subsidizing the roads in North Carolina. And one of the reasons is just an observation on my part, I don't have all the facts, is the oil companies don't seem to want to allow a wide state-by-state separation in gasoline prices. And in 2003, when North Carolina went from 23 to 29 cents a gallon, within the next 48 hours, all the distributors in Virginia got a 6-cent increase in the wholesale price to match the tax increase in North Carolina. So it's a little strange market, but that's essentially how it works.
You know, there's another market, that's not the case. Some tobacco. They'll buy Marlboro, but they'll buy sale.
Okay, is there further discussion on the bill? So, I'm told by the clerk that there is no motion on the bill at the moment.
Move to report.
Second.
452.
452. It's been moved and seconded, 452 be.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I
Senator Pat Peterson.
Before we vote on this, we've got a governor's transportation bill, now we have this bill. Are these married up together? Are they separate pieces of legislation? How are they gonna work together?
Senator Sassel.
Well, this is, all I know is my 899's been rolled into 890.
Perhaps Jason can.
Madam Chairman, Senator Peterson, to your question, at the moment, the two bills are separate and do not conflict with each other, but they are in a position in which they could be if the committee elects to be incorporated into one vehicle. Senate Bill 890, which we'll speak to next, does the statewide gas tax. This, again, just focuses on the regions, but it is in a position in which it
452 is
could be
region.
incorporated.
Doesn't affect Northern Virginia.
Well, I understand it doesn't affect Northern Virginia, but it just,
Through the chair, please.
thank you, Madam Chair. I understand it doesn't affect Northern Virginia. I guess my question is, would this be precluded by the legislation that we may adopt later?
No.
Madam Chair, Senator Peterson, no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, did you have a comment?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to share that part of the reason for doing this substitute was to get the regional gas tax in the same format with the cents per gallon instead of the percentage that is in the governor's statewide package. So these could be passed separately or together, but they would layer together and have the same approach. And that was part of the reason for the substitute.
Madam Chair?
So-
Yeah.
Senator Edwards.
Am I right that the bill that's in my name, Senate Bill 452, will be passed separately from Senator Saslaw's Senate Bill 890? Yes, okay.
That's,
Yeah.
okay, so at the moment, we have before us Senate Bill 452.
I move to report.
It's been moved that 452 be reported. It's been seconded. All in favor, record your vote. Aye. Opposed, nay.
13 ayes, 2 nays.
13 ayes, 2 nays. The bill is reported. Now, the next bill.
Madam Chair, Senate Bill 692, Senator Obenshain's. The subcommittee did not have a recommendation as the patron was not present, but what the legislation would do would be to exempt the regional gas tax in the I-81 corridor for those locations in which I-81 doesn't physically touch it. That would be negated by the action that was just taken on Senate Bill 452. The subcommittee did not have a recommendation on the bill.
And Senator Obenshain is not here.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator
If I can
Reed.
speak to that, I mean,
Yep.
I'm a team player, and I always have been. But let's look at it from the perspective of somebody who lives in Bath County, Bath, Highland, Allegheny. 81 doesn't run through them. They got the 7.7-cent tax increase last year, and now you're piling another 12 cents on them. That's what this bill's about. I moved report.
Substitute motion to pass by indefinitely.
Second.
It's been,
What is this?
substitute motion is to pass the bill by indefinitely. If there are no comments, all in favor vote of passing it by, vote aye, opposed nay.
11 ayes, 3 nays, 1 abstention.
11 ayes, 3 nays, 1 abstention. The bill is passed by indefinitely.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
The final bill for the Transportation Subcommittee report is Senator Saslaw's Senate Bill 890. That is the administration's bill. the subcommittee has debated long and hard. There was a lot of discussion, and there are several changes from the introduced bill, specifically removing the safety components related to the introduced bill. Additionally, the bill does the following things. It authorizes a total of $2 billion in non-sea transportation debt for two specific uses. $1 billion of that would be allocated for I-81 improvements and backed by the regional gas tax. Another $1 billion would be appropriated or would be authorized for passenger rail improvements, and that would be backed by I-66 inside the Beltway toll revenues. The bill also converts the statewide gas tax to a fixed cents per gallon and increases that rate by 4 cents a year for 3 years, beginning in fiscal year 2021. That rate in 2021 would be 20.2 cents, rising to 28.2 cents in fiscal year 23, and then indexed to CPI. With respect to the diesel tax, it incorporates the actions taken last year to increase the diesel tax across the state and indexes that to CPI beginning in fiscal year 2023. It converts all of the regional sales tax, motor fuels taxes to a fixed cents per gallon and indexes those to the CPI as well. It repeals the $64 electric vehicle registration fee and imposes a new highway use fee based on vehicle fuel economy for owners of fuel-efficient vehicles with a fuel economy greater than 25 miles per gallon. That would be in addition to the existing base registration fee. It authorizes DMV to create a pilot program for participants who elect to remit their actual miles traveled and has the department developing guidelines for this program prior to May of 2022. With respect to the regions, it increases the Northern Virginia region. It increases the existing state-imposed regional transportation improvement fee from 15 cents per hundred to 20 cents per hundred for those jurisdictions in Planning District 8 that are part of the planning district of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. It codifies for the first time the Commonwealth Transportation Fund, which does not actually exist in statute, and moves all of the existing funds as sub-funds of the Commonwealth Transportation Fund, including the Highway Maintenance and Operating Fund and the Transportation Trust Fund. And then it has new allocation formulas to distribute those revenues to each of the programmatic areas. It establishes the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority for the purpose of promoting, sustaining, and expanding the availability of passenger and commuter rail service in the Commonwealth, and gives the authority specific and certain powers with respect to police powers and eminent domain relative to acquiring land for the operation of passenger rail. It has a specific prohibition on the operation of passenger rail by the authority. And finally, it adds Corridor Q, the Coalfields Expressway, to the authorized projects eligible to be funded from the Route 58 Corridor Improvement Fund.
Thank you. That's a fairly substantive bill. Does anyone have a question for either Jason or Senator Sassel?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Hanger.
I would raise 3 points. One, clarification. I know we discussed it, but the bill proposes to eliminate the vehicle registration fee on a certain level. Did we remove that?
Madam Chair, Senator Hanger, yes, the subcommittee removed the reduction in the vehicle registration fee.
Good, good. All right, well, that could share. Then the offsetting point, and Senator Saslaw, as far as, and Madam Chair, as far as your bill is concerned, that picks up an additional $164 million. And I don't think there's any reason to do away with that registration fee.
That's correct.
All right. I would hope you could agree to not going out to the third year. Let's do this for 2 years. We can come back and evaluate where we're at rather than going 12 cents all at once.
Well, we're not doing it all at once.
I know, but the perception is all at once, Madam Chair, in that we're authorizing a package. The other issue, and it's more minor, that one is substantive for me. The one that's more minor is I think we'll have an opportunity as this bill moves through the process to particularly since we're keeping the registration fee, to fix what we did to the trauma fund and the 4 for Life program while we're moving this bill through the process.
This would,
Senator Sassel.
Madam Chair, even going 3 times 4, still, I believe, and you can check with VDOT with the Secretary's office if they're here, would still leave us below the national average. And, then they have to come back in 2022. I mean, the needs out there, and I will just tell you what I've been told, back in the mid-'80s, we used to have a policy in this state of resurfacing subdivision streets and secondary roads every 6 years. It's now every 15. And some, it's even longer than that. And the reason is the maintenance money is just simply not there. This going up 12 cents over the next 3 years will take the maintenance fund, which is currently only $750 million a year, up to about $12.50 or about $12.75, $1.275 billion. This money is needed. We got streets in here that look like World War III was fought on them. And it's not going to get any better by, pretending there's not a problem there, and we're still going to be below all the surrounding states. We're still going to be below all the surrounding states. In fact, probably by then, we won't even be close to the surrounding states. So I would say we need to go ahead with the bill at 3 times 4.
Madam Chair.
And I might add, we didn't raise the gas tax. The last time we actually raised the cents per gallon, Madam Chairman, Senator Hanger, was in 1986 when we went from 15 to 17.5 cents. It's 16.1.
Right.
Senator Locke.
Madam Chair, I just have a question with regard to, and this is on page 7, the membership of the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. And there are 2 members from the Northern Virginia Transportation District, 2 from Potomac, Rappahannock, 2 from Richmond Metropolitan, and 1 from HR TAC. Just curious as to how that composition was determined.
Madam Secretary.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question. The way it was initially introduced, the Passenger Rail Authority is divided between Amtrak and VRE, and we wanted them to have equal representation. Northern Virginia and PRTC are representing the VRE portion, that's 4, and then Hampton Roads, Richmond, and Western Virginia make up the Amtrak portion. I have been, since the issue has been brought to my attention, I believe we are going to increase the number to 2 in Hampton Roads and Western Virginia, and then increasing 1 to MVTC and PRTC. So we're still keeping the balance of VRE and Amtrak on this authority, and equalizing the representation. But that was really the reasoning behind it. I will also just add that part of the work of the authority will be dealing with real estate acquisition, maintenance, track ownership. We're going to be owning that between Richmond and DC, and that was also went into the calculation. But I think you raise a good point.
Senator Norman.
Madam Chairman, I have a verbal motion, and it would be to amend the bill to consistent with the question that Senator Locke raised to increase the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountable Commission to 2 and Western Virginia to 2.
Is there a second? Discussion? All in favor?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator.
Quick question. That would not address the issue of VRE being separately there. So I would propose an amendment to the amendment to go from 2 to 3 for NVT, Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, and the Potomac Rappahannock Transportation Commission, which operates the VRE system.
Senator Norman, is that okay with it was your amendment?
For right now.
Okay, it's been moved, and is there a second?
Second.
The amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Amendment passes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Madam Chair.
I heard who? Oh,
Peterson.
Senator Peterson.
Madam Chair, we've talked about the funding mechanism, which is obviously what this bill is mostly about, but I noticed that there's some safety issues, and I'm not quite sure who to direct this to, but some bills that I've seen since I've come down here, such as wearing a seatbelt a primary offense, is that not in the bill anymore?
Madam Chair, Senator, Peterson, the subcommittee actions removed all of the safety-related components in the introduced bill, as there were other vehicles in the Transportation Committee that addressed those policies. This is only the funding issues.
Only funding.
And the rail authority. Yes, sir.
Hallelujah. Okay, thank you, sir.
Senator Sessler.
To answer Senator Peterson, I just do not think that that belongs in a revenue bill, that should be handled as a separate issue, and it will be.
Okay, are there further questions? Is there a motion on the bill?
Madam Chair,
Senator Hanger.
in reference to the point that I raised, I would like to at least test, the move of the committee as far as extending it just 2 years. So it would be 8 cents. And with Senator Saslow, I understand and I agree. We've gotten way behind. But I think that decision could be made later, and particularly in reference to the bill that Senator Edwards and I sponsored, if it would be perceived as a bit rich. The other point I would make, since we did not eliminate the registration fee, we've actually added more to the package than it would have been the other way, the way the governor introduced it. So I would move that we just, at this point, just go for 2 years, 2 4-cent increases.
Is there?
I'm going to ask that, with all due respect to Senator Hanger, that we reject that amendment.
We don't have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Did anyone else wish to speak? I just wanted to, I will be opposing this amendment, and actually I have been thinking the whole time, we all know what a hard political lift it is to have any tax increase, and I don't understand why it wasn't made more substantial. But it is what it is in front of us, so. Okay. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The noes have it. The amendment is defeated.
I now move that Senate Bill 690, or 890 as amended, be reported.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Senate Bill 890 as amended be reported. All in favor, please record your vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
10 ayes, 6 nays.
10 ayes, 6 nays. The bill is reported.
Madam Chair, that completes the report of the Transportation Subcommittee.
Thank you. Next up is Health and Human Services. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The HHR Subcommittee met and discussed numerous bills. Senate Bill 382 is the first one that I would bring forward by Senator McPike, which would add coverage for prosthetic devices to mandated benefits. It was a recommendation of the subcommittee on a 7-0 vote that it be reported. I would share that there was testimony to the fact that we weren't doing this right, that there's a different process for adding things to mandated benefits, but we decided to go ahead and fly it up the flagpole anyway, so I move that the bill be reported.
It's been moved. Is there a second? And seconded that the bill be reported. Senate Bill 382. All in favor, please vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. The bills are reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 178, Senator Favola, kinship guardianship assistance programs for fictive care. It was verified to us it would be minimal impact that could be absorbed in the Department of Social Services. There was a 7-0 vote. The report, I move that we report Senate Bill 178.
It's been moved and seconded. Senate Bill 178 be reported. Record your votes.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 570, Senator Mason, state-funded kinship guardianship assistance program, significant, $1.6 million the first year, $1.7 million general fund the second year. It'll be a matter of priorities in the budget, so I move that we adopt the financial contingency clause.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded the clause be added. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
With the clause, the recommendation of the committee was to recommend reporting, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. All in favor, please record your vote. Aye.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. The bills are reported.
Senate Bill 135, Senator Stewart, Children's Services Act, Special Education Services. There is a movement by a number of the localities to allow individual localities to transfer these special education students to their programs from the private day treatment programs. We had previously acted on Senator Peake's bill, which would have extended this statewide with a letter to JLARC to study the issue so we can make a more informed recommendation next year. With that in mind, the action of the committee was to recommend carrying this over for the year on a 6-to-1 vote with a letter to JLARC. And so I move that the bill be carried over with and then we would have a letter to JLARC requesting, as we did with Senator Peake's, additional study.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be carried over with a request to JLARC. All in favor, record your vote. Aye. Opposed, nay.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Senate Bill
is
300,
reported.
Senator Stanley was addressing remote patient monitoring for rural populations, providing Medicaid coverage for remote patient monitoring services for rural populations. Currently, that's limited to glucose monitoring. We found merit in that bill, and we're hopeful that we could allocate some funding in the budget. But we recommended attaching the financial contingency clause, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded the clause be added to Senate Bill 300. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
With that, it was a recommendation of the committee to report, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded the bill as amended be reported. Record your vote. Aye.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 187, Senator Vivola would remove the time limitation on TANF. Currently, there's a 24-month time limit. There's a federal override of 60 months total in a lifetime. If this would require some allocation of our TANF funds in order to support this bill, non-general funds from TANF. So there was a recommendation of the committee that we adopt the financial contingency clause, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded that the clause be added. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Clause added.
With that added, I recommend and I move that the bill be reported as amended.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded the bill be reported as amended. All in aye or nay?
14 ayes, 2 nays.
14 ayes, 2 nays. Okay. All right.
Somebody reconsider that.
Madam Chair, having voted on the prevailing side, I move that we reconsider that vote.
It's been moved and seconded that the vote be reconsidered. All in favor, record your vote aye.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
Madam Chair, I again move
16
that
ayes,
the bill
0
be
nays.
reported.
It's been moved that the bill be reported. All in favor, record aye or nay.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
Senate Bill 297, Senator Favola's bill dealing with Sexual and Domestic Violence Prevention Fund, which would be a new fund created. There are some technical amendments, a couple technical line amendments that we adopted, and I move that it be amended to reflect those technical amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded the technical amendments be agreed to. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. There was discussion about whether or not there was a general fund request for this, but the conclusion of the subcommittee was that we could create the fund and then either fund it or not fund it. And so we do not need to attach the clause, and we recommend, and I move that we report the bill as amended.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported as amended. It's Senate Bill 297. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, vote no.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 501, Senator Reeves, adoption and foster care deals with persons authorized to conduct home studies, allows individuals who take a home study course to conduct home studies. This only local DSS and child placing agencies can currently do this. DSS said they can't absorb the costs. So it was a recommendation of the subcommittee to report, and I so move.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. All in favor, record your vote aye. Opposed, nay.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 715, Senator McClellan, deals with TANF in menstrual supplies, and this bill came from the Rehab Committee with a recommendation that for households that have individual family members in need of menstrual supplies, that $10 be added to the monthly TANF benefit. There was discussion about possibly just increasing overall the TANF benefit, but the recommendation is that we attach the contingency clause, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded the clause be attached to Senate Bill 715. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
And with that, the recommendation was to report, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Senate Bill 732, Senator McClellan is the lead on that. I also had a bill that was rolled into hers. It would create Virginia Health Benefit Exchange. We had a fairly robust conversation about some of the provisions within that fairly large bill, feeling that it needed to be vetted further. One of the changes that we made was from the providers, the fee that, as proposed by the governor's office, would have been 3.5%. We do have a substitute on that.
We do have a substitute.
Has that been distributed? Okay. I would move that we adopt the substitute.
It's been moved and seconded the substitute be adopted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While it's being distributed, I'll describe one of the significant changes that we made was the provider assessment that currently goes to the feds. That started out at the federal level at 3.5%, has been reduced this year to 3%. So the committee decided to reduce that in this bill to 3%. There were a number of technical amendments that were made, but I think we all agreed that it's a work in progress, and that so with the adoption of the substitute and some of the amendments contained in the substitute, we recommend reporting.
It's been recommended that Senate Bill 732 be reported. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, please vote aye. Opposed, nay.
15 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
15 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention. The bill's reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 738, Senator Deeds, something he's been working on quite a bit with his Mental Health Commission, been working with him. The bill clarifies the use of medical TDOs for a 24-hour period of observation in emergency departments and other hospital settings due to intoxication. This possibly could reduce the number of intoxicated TDOs sent to state mental health hospitals, which is one of our primary goals this year. There's no known additional costs, so the committee voted to report 7-0, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded Senate Bill 738 be reported. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
Senate Bill 863, Senator Pillion's bill concerns the leasing of a property in Smith County. We had a discussion about that. There's merit in the possible use down there We advised Senator Pillion that we would have a conversation with General Services, hopefully between today and tomorrow, so that we could come back with a more informed recommendation on what to do with the bill, which could involve possibly transferring the ownership of the property to Smith County or an industrial development down there. So I just ask that we pass that by for the day.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 946, Senator Locke's, dealing with Medicaid state plan to include doulas. Senator Locke, you were not present at that time. There is further study that we thought was needed to implement the provisions of the bill. There would be a general fund cost associated with that. So our initial recommendation is that we carry it forward, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to that.
Carry it over?
Right, but I wanted to give, with your indulgence, Madam
Yes.
Chair, to give Senator Locke an opportunity to speak to the bill if she would be opposed to that.
Okay, what this does is it simply adds Medicaid coverage of doula services for pregnant women to address the disparity between maternal mortality for African-American women who experience that mortality rate much higher. And what doulas do is they help reduce this impact in the bias of health care for pregnant women of color by providing individually tailored, culturally appropriate, and patient-centered care and advocacy for women of color. And so they are there to assist women during the pregnancy and after. So this would be of great assistance and importance to reduce the maternal mortality rate for African-American women primarily. And 60% of all pregnancy-related deaths can be prevented with better health care, communication, and support if a doula is present for African-American women. And sometimes the issue is addressed that doulas are not licensed or regulated. There is a separate piece of legislation that's going through that's addressing that particular question on the House side.
Okay.
So that legislation is moving forward.
Okay. Madam Chair.
Senator Hanger.
We also observed that there is a study embedded in Senate Bill 29, the caboose bill, that we thought that we could make a more informed decision on the bill if we allowed that study to be completed. And our recommendation was to carry it forward for the year
Carry
unless
it
Senator
over
Locke
for the year?
objected strenuously.
I won't object strenuously.
Okay, then.
I so move.
It's
That'd be
been
carried
moved,
forward.
and is there a second that it be carried over for the year? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, no.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15, okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 991, our final bill that was in subcommittee, would create the Office of New Americans within the Department of Social Services. We thought there was some merit that deserved consideration, but we also reflected on the cost, and we ask, and I move that we adopt the financial contingency clause.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The clause be attached to 991. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
With that, Madam Chair, I move that Senate Bill 991 as amended be reported.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 991 as amended be reported. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
That concludes our report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That's quite extensive. Okay, now, does that complete all the bills in the subcommittee reports? Okay. So we will then go to hear from members who are not on this committee, and the first to sign up is Senator Peake.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm here on Senate Bill 1024. And this is a companion bill to bill that I have filed, that Senator Morrissey has filed, and that there's filed in the House of Delegates. What has happened over this summer has exploded the realization that we have a problem at our Department of Corrections with strip searches. And what we have are dogs are alerting on people who are visiting inmates at the Department of Corrections. They're performing strip searches on these individuals, and they are not finding contraband. And there's some other provisions in the other bills about the Department of Corrections was saying if you don't submit to the strip search, you'll be banned forever from visiting anyone at the prison. And they also strip searched minors. But this was brought to my attention by a 73-year-old lady married to a lawyer in my area. And she was visiting a person, they dog alerted and said, if you don't strip search, you don't get to come back. So she did the strip search, didn't find anything. And then it turned out some other articles started coming out. I had no idea. Gary Harkey with the Virginia Pilot did a whole series on this. An 8-year-old girl was strip searched after a dog alerted on her. Carrie O'Brien with the Report TV station up here has done reports. There's 83-year-old woman, an 83-year-old man. There's a 15-year-old boy where they're saying if you don't, dogs alert, they say if you don't allow the strip search, you never get to come back. They're all found clean, and then they're not even allowed to contact visit with the person they're coming to visit. Some of the information we got from DOC, I think the Virginia Pilot got it. Out of 157 strip searches, they had found 10 instances of contraband. So 10 out of 157. Something's wrong, and we need to find out what it is. We've got the other bill that's going to do away with some of those policies. But this bill says, let's see what's going, make sure the canines are trained. And then Senator Morrissey talked. He said one of the guys told him, the statement to the person was, our dogs are always right. Well, 10 out of 157 is far from always right. The ones that we have, all kinds of different ages, male, female, youth, they're not always right. They need to keep score. We need a tally, and we need to know what their winning percentage is. And Nicole, who's with the ACLU, there's been some articles and some federal circuit court cases. A lot of times these dogs is showing are 60% correct, sometimes 43% correct. And we need to find out what our DOC dogs, what their winning percentage is, and then we need to determine as a body what is a tolerable percentage. Because I can tell you, if it was going into the bank and a dog alerted on you, and 50% of the time you were having to strip naked, squat, and cough, something would change in a hurry. If you were coming into the General Assembly building and 60% of the time the dog was telling you, and you had to do it, and 40% of the time they were wrong, it wouldn't work. If you were going to a court of law and 40 or 50% of the time you were stripped naked, squatting and coughing in front of somebody else, it would not continue. But it's being allowed to be done at the Department of Corrections. We need to know how these dogs are trained and how they're performing, and then we need to do something about it.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Nicole Tortorello, and as Senator Peake said, I'm with the ACLU of Virginia, and I just want to echo what Senator Peake has said. We have received far too many intakes about problematic canine searches that are resulting in people trying to visit their loved ones who are unable to have contact visits, even after they've been told no contraband has been found in these strip searches. And so this bill would be an important step to figuring out what is going on with these canine searches, how accurate are they, and are they a tool that are actually being used effectively? And so we would support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed?
Me and the ACLU, you see it all the time.
That we've seen it.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator.
I think the relevant question would be whether Department of Corrections and Juvenile Justice can do this without additional funding.
It was sent to finance from rehab.
Right.
And we've got no financial impact statement.
Madam, if they're not here, otherwise, I would move that the bill be reported.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, please vote aye. Opposed, nay.
All right.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is reported. Next, Senator Favola.
Good morning. Before you is Senate Bill 248, and it is a violence intervention and prevention fund, the creation. And what this would do is it would create a fund to provide grants to local governments, community-based organizations, and hospitals for the implementation of evidence-based intervention and prevention efforts to reduce violence. This proposal is very similar to a proposal in the governor's budget. The governor's proposal is a gun violence intervention and prevention program. The main differences, besides the naming of the fund, is the governor's budget really just would provide grants to 5 localities. My proposal is more expansive in terms of who would be eligible, not just local governments, but community-based organizations and hospitals. I did put a budget amendment in. The governor's budget has $2,645,244 in the first year and $194,000 in the second. And I too put in an amendment which was $1.8 million in the first year and $3.6 in the second. So maybe somewhere in between is probably a right number. That's the beginning and end of my bill.
Okay, are there any questions for the patron? Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone opposed? Okay. It seems to me we're going to need to have a clause on this.
So moved, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded that the clause be put on. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, is there a motion on the bill?
Recommend reporting with the amendment.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported with the clause on it. All in favor, record your vote aye. Opposed, no.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. Bill's reported. Senator McPike. I'm sorry. Senator Boysko, I didn't see her. She's
not here right now.
Good morning, Madam
Good morning.
Chairwoman. I have 2 bills. One is SB 853. It's an anti-bias instruction and support for teachers. And according to my sources, there is no fiscal impact for it. And the Department of Education would be able to absorb any resource needs within their current scope. And I do believe I have someone from the Department of Education here in the event that you might have a question.
Okay, is there anyone who'd like to speak to the bill?
Good morning, Emily Webb with the Department of Education. We are able to absorb this bill within existing resources and support the work that the department is doing in revisions to the standards of learning.
Good. Is there anyone opposed to the bill? Second. It's been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, record your vote aye. Opposed, nay.
Fifteen ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the second bill is SB 770. It's the paid family and medical leave. And I understand there are concerns about the upfront costs. I have been in conversations with one of our colleagues who suggested perhaps we could look at how implementation could be possible over a study or some sort of language in the budget that would just set that out to review that as opposed to moving the actual bill, but maybe continuing it.
The suggestion that we were going to make is that the bill be carried over for the year with a letter to JLARC to look at what the experiences and lessons of other states is in this area.
That would
Is that
be
okay?
That would be wonderful. I'd really appreciate that.
Madam Chair?
Senator Hanger.
An alternate to that, which I discussed with Senator Boysko, was she has a budget amendment in that we replace that budget amendment in with just a short directive to examine what's going on in other states have someone internally take a look at that and maybe just pass the bill by indefinitely. But that's a good thing and a not so good thing, but I
Yes.
think it would move the ball down the road a little bit.
If I might ask you, who would you suggest do the study?
I have some language, but I can't find it right now, Madam Chair. So, do you have that? Do you have your recommended language we discussed?
I don't have it at my fingertips this second,
Okay. I'm
but
not finding it right now. Apologize.
Madam Chair, if I could give my preference, I would prefer what you just suggested, that we would have JLARC look at it and then continue the bill to next year.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Senator Peterson, then Senator Norman.
I think it's also important to notice the impact this would have on small business. Most of
Absolutely.
which are owned by minorities in my area. And I think that we need to have a realistic conversation about what it means to a small business, because we pass a lot of bills down here, which frankly are in a silo. And I just think we need to get more of a community conversation with the minority business community. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen about exactly what this bill does. It's been difficult for us to do that in this short time frame when we're all trying to do 50 million other things, and I'd be happy to continue that conversation, make sure that we're including small businesses. This should actually help small businesses be on a level playing field, but I look forward to having that conversation and continuing it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, Senator Norman.
I would suggest that we handle it just as Commerce and Labor did, which has primary jurisdiction over these bills, and it was a PBI with a letter directing a work group to study the issue.
Madam Chair,
Senator McClellan.
I'm not sure if that's an official motion, but just speaking to that suggestion for a minute. If we are going to PBI it or carry it over, I think it's important that the work group actually be convened and actually work. Last year, it was very late before the Commerce and Labor Working Group was convened. I think there was some concern that they did not have enough time in waiting so late to convene. But this is a really significant issue that a lot of small businesses want to figure out a way to provide leave for their employees, but they can't do it on their own. And so I agree they need to be part of the conversation. I agree that minority-owned businesses also need to be part of the conversation. But we are reaching a point where we have an increasing number of people who are part of the sandwich generation who are struggling to work while also taking care of aging parents and children. And this issue is only going to get worse. So I would really hope that whoever is going to look at this be convened as quickly as possible with as comprehensive a group of people. And typically that only happens if we instruct them to do that either through a letter or through legislation or a budget amendment saying, these are the people we want you to talk to and work with.
Senator Norman.
Madam Chairman, responding to the senator's comment, I think part of the delay last year was that we lost the experienced chairman of Commerce and Labor, and there was a little bit of a gap that took place in there as we transitioned. So I don't think it was a dilatory effort. I think it was lack of direction. And on another comment, I associate myself with Senator Peterson's. This has got the potential to have a significant impact on small businesses.
Madam Chair.
Senator Deeds, then Senator Hanger.
My concern about going to JLARC with this is that I'm not sure how much, they've got limited bandwidth at this point, it seems to me. There's several matters that have gone to JLARC already this year. And if we need somebody to take a hard look at this and come back next year with something positive, hopefully. So, I'm hopeful if you send it to JLARC, I hope that they've got room to do it this year.
Madam Chair.
Senator McClellan.
I'm sorry, again, if JLARC can't do it, I mean, we do have, the Director of Workforce and a Secretary of Commerce, and, if JLARC doesn't have the ability to do it, maybe they should be the ones to do it.
Madam Chair.
Are you with JLARC?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so do you have the capacity to do this now?
Well, Madam Chairman, Justin Brown with the Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission. We are currently kind of full for this upcoming year, and there's been quite a bit of discussion in the various rules committees about kind of how studies would be routed, particularly for kind of subsequent studies. What has been done on the House side is I think there's been 8 or 9 studies that have kind of been sent with a letter referring, and JLARC as an entity will have to kind of decide how that will be navigated in kind of what we call our pipeline, our future studies. To my knowledge, there is one study that has come through Senate rules that I believe it is on the floor. So just to kind of put a bottom line, we're full now. We can think about what we will do in the future, but that process has to be kind of decided by JLARC membership.
Okay. Madam Chair?
Senator Hanger.
I found the language. It would have directed the inquiry to the Workforce Director,
Workforce
Megan Healy,
Director.
and the Commerce Secretary.
Yeah. I actually do have the language now, finally, too.
Yes, and is that suggestion okay with you, given
Yes, yeah,
JLARC
yes,
can't
it
do it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I will let you know that the people that I've been working with do have comprehensive nationwide data and information on how these are structured in other states, the success rate, the challenges that they face, the different policy decisions state by state. Some are a full insurance program, some are employee only, some bring in a private company. There are many ways of solving this, but we know that we have a problem. I'm encouraged that it appears that you all are willing to study this further, because I think it's something that we all need to face as a collective.
Okay, so may I hear a motion to pass it by for the year and direct Megan Healy and her group to study it? Been
Madam
moved
Chair.
and seconded. Senator Newman.
I just hope whoever's going to write the letter, I think we do need to get what the fiscal impact will be and also what the impact on small business is. I mean, if we just do a study and we're still wondering the Peterson question, we're no much further along. So the detail of the letter in this one, I think, may actually matter.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator Peterson.
And I apologize for belaboring this issue, and I appreciate Senator Boysko bringing this issue. I represent small businesses as my profession. You also need to talk about the impact that this will have about people basically deciding not to hire employees and rather put them on as 1099s. And because the gig economy is risen in large part in reaction to these types of laws. And so you need to talk about that impact also.
And Madam Chairwoman, not to belabor this, but there are options for independent contractors to choose to buy into these kinds of programs. So once again, there are many ways to find success through this program, and I'm glad that the Commonwealth is willing to have that conversation.
And if I might, since I guess I'll be writing the letter, I'd also like to have them look at what other states are doing to deal with the issues that they're looking at.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion is that it be passed by for the year with a letter to Megan Healy to put together a work group on this topic. All in favor, please vote aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you, Madam.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's reported.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Senator McPike, to be followed by Senator Stanley.
Morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. This is Senate Bill 389. It's before the committee. This is the omnibus bill to reform the number of ABC license permits and types. This is a part of roughly a 3-year process that the Rehab and Social Services Subcommittee on ABC laws has been working through. This has been worked with both ABC stakeholders and others. We've tackled roughly reducing the number of permit types by 50% by just modernizing the description of permit types. In addition to that, the permit fees were reviewed by ABC to sort of study the level of effort associated with each permit type, and so they've rebalanced those permit fees. with projected revenue of roughly $2.6 million to cover the required enforcement under these provisions. So, Madam Chair, that is the bill. Happy to answer any number of questions. After Prohibition, we started with roughly 12 permits. I think we ballooned up to roughly 220 permit types based on Christmas tree. This bill now consolidates where as best and logical as possible. And I just want to comment, DLS staff David May has been working on this for quite some time and has done a fantastic job in helping us to get here.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator McPike? Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone in opposition to the bill? Okay, then the bill's before us. It's been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, no.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Madam
Bill's
Chair.
reported. Senator Stanley.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the
Morning.
committee. I think it's Senate Bill 773.
Senate Bill 773.
And Madam Chair, I believe, and I don't know if it's been amended, but there was an amendment. There you go.
I believe there's a substitute. Is there a substitute?
Substitute amendment. Yep.
Is there a motion on the substitute? It's been moved and seconded that the substitute be, thank you. That this,
Wake up,
that the
Emmett.
substitute be agreed to. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, just to explain the substitute, it really just takes it out of the Department of Historic Resources and returns this to the Virginia Tourism Corporation. Madam Chair, we have 19 tracks, both dirt tracks and asphalt tracks, racing tracks throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, from Northern Virginia to the southwestern tip, through Richmond, and of course, east on the eastern shore. These racetracks provide an enormous amount of tourism dollars to us, and also it demonstrates the history and the start of NASCAR, which of course we in Southside, and especially in Franklin and Henry, like to say that are people that tried to avoid the revenuers when time of moonshine, drove fast cars, and they had time on their hands, and when they had time on their hands, they wanted to race each other, and that started NASCAR. If you do recall, we had what is called the Crooked Road, which has been a boon to our tourism industry, which of course reflects our history with bluegrass and country music. Here, what we're trying to do is create that Crooked Road kind of tourist opportunity for these areas, which a lot of these tracks are in significantly reduced economic areas, rural areas, and quite frankly, if we can have a NASCAR trail, which basically, or stock car trail, which basically helps those that come to our Commonwealth and want to involve themselves in stock car racing and watch stock car racing, whether it be in South Boston or Bristol, Richmond or Martinsville, that they can do that. I am reminded and like to tell my friends that in Martinsville, we have 2 Super Bowls a year. We have 2 races. The night race is coming, and we're now going to be the one race right before the championship of NASCAR. That brings $35 million in increased revenues, tourism revenues to Martinsville, Henry County, each race. We have Bristol, we have Richmond. So we're very blessed to have basically 6 races, 6 Super Bowls. And so what this does is it convenes a work group to develop the NASCAR trail in the same way that the Crooked Road was created. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a budget fiscal impact, but that was $35,000 each year if it was in the tourism bailiwick. This merely puts together a work group of stakeholders focused on the history and economic development, the owners of NASCAR and other motor vehicle racing tracks, and related real property to the Commonwealth. We have even the Virginia International Raceway down in Danville, which could be a part of this. So we think this would be a real boon to our economy. I've never had this luck before, so maybe I just keep talking until you do something.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed? You can take a breath now.
Yeah. Just do this to me when it's going on.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank
Bill's
you.
reported.
Thank you. And I think the other ones were,
They
other
were
bills were handled by the
subcommittee.
subcommittee. So thank you, Madam Chair. It's always great to see you.
Now, let me just confirm with staff that we have now completed not only all the subcommittees, but all the non-member bills. Yes, okay. So now we will start on committee members' bills, and let's just do it alphabetically. Let's start with Senator Deeds. You have 324.
324 is an effort to address a statewide shortage of school bus drivers. It was brought to me by school boards in Albemarle County and Charlottesville, basically to allow them to bring back retired school bus drivers to drive buses, and for them not to lose their VRS benefits. And I found more interest in this bill once it was introduced, and I think at the other committee, we had speakers from all over the state basically speaking in favor of it.
Are there any questions for the patron? Anyone wish to speak in favor of the bill?
Madam Chairman, Tom Smith with Superintendent's Association. The senator is right. This is a statewide problem. Anytime anybody wants to drive a bus, we can get them a job right away. It does impact children's learning. If you know what double runs are, particularly in the beginning and the ending of school, this will help greatly if we can move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Sasslaw.
Out of curiosity, what do these school bus drivers get paid?
Madam Chair, Senator Sasslaw, it depends on the area. But I do know that some school divisions have also moved towards adding them benefits, health benefits, to try to attract them. So they're working as hard as they can to get folks to drive.
But out of curiosity, what do they get paid?
I can't give you that right now. I don't.
Senator Norman.
Before you leave, sir, are these school bus drivers, are they employees of the local school systems?
Yes, sir. I'm going to say yes, sir. Some school divisions farm that out, but the vast majority work for the local school division.
Madam Chairman, then wouldn't the local school boards and the local elected officials have the flexibility to increase their pay and to absorb the benefits if they were so politically inclined?
Madam Chair, Senator Norman, they do work hard to do that. The problem really isn't the pay as much as the time. When you're driving a bus, you're working for a couple of hours, say 2 to 3 hours in the morning and 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon. And so for folks to come and do that full time, it really is suited more toward retirees, to be honest with you. That's what I found when I was superintendent.
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association, to speak to Senator Saslaw's point and Senator Norman's point as well. The VEA actually did. We survey school divisions regularly, and we do have some data. It's 2 years old, but I'm happy to send that along. It's all over the place, the salaries for school bus drivers. Some school divisions have them full-time employees and then give them a full set of benefits. Others, they're hourly. It's just very dependent on the local school division. And so a lot of school divisions that have salaried/full-time employees, oftentimes those bus drivers are working solely for the cost associated with their benefits, particularly health insurance. The VEA supports this legislation. As you heard from Dr. Smith, this is a statewide problem. Oftentimes these double runs also cut into teacher planning time, which I know this committee has recently discussed, because teachers are left watching the students in the hallway, particularly in our elementary schools, while waiting for the school bus drivers to come around. And as we like to say at the VEA, we can't teach the students if they're not in the building. And when we don't have bus drivers, it's far more complicated to get them into the building. So we support this legislation.
Good, thank you.
And I will send that along.
Okay, thanks. Senator Peterson, and just before you start, we've got a long agenda ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, the code already says administrative personnel, so isn't this bill somewhat superfluous?
Well, Madam Chair, Mr. Peterson, Senator Peterson, I would say that a lot of school divisions don't think it's superfluous. I think a lot of school divisions think they need this legislation to be able to bring back retired school bus drivers.
Whatever.
And I'd move to report the bill.
Been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, record your vote. Aye. Opposed, nay.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
You know, I had said I was going to do it alphabetically, but that seems unfair to Senator Vogel, who's a V.
Well, Madam Chair, I still have one more bill. Can I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
If I can do that, I don't.
No, that's fine.
I've got Senate Bill 622, which essentially renames the Board of Corrections the State Board of Local and Regional Jails. You know, this issue, particularly around jail deaths, has been before us for several years, and we asked JLARC to take a look at the regional jails or at the oversight system. And this bill primarily, while I say and somewhat jest that the main effect is to change the name of the Board of Corrections, it also implements recommendations of JLARC. And in addition to that, it adds a provision for an administrative appeal of regional jail that has been cited within the new Department of or State Board of Local and Regional Jails. That's essentially what it does. JLARC, I think, is here to address the bulk of the bill if there are concerns.
Okay, are there any questions, or does anyone in the audience wish to speak to this bill? Is there? Yes.
Hi. Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jacqueline Katoon. I'm with the Secretary of Public Safety's office. This is an administration bill. We strongly support it. And there is funding in the governor's budget to absorb the fiscal impact.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move the report.
Been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, record your vote. Aye. Opposed, nay.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays. The bill's
Thank you very
reported.
much.
Senator Vogel. Senator Vogel has people from all over the state here.
See to me.
Madam Chair, I have other bills. I'm just going to scoot this one in, and then you can go back to the alphabetical list. The first responders who are here are super grateful that you yielded to their request to let them go now, because some of them have come from around the Commonwealth. I have Senate Bill 561, which is a bill that rolled in Senator Pike's bill and my bill. And this comes to you as a result of our first responders and others who've been advocating for support and help in the treatment of PTSD. And this went to a JLARC study, and they concluded that it is, in fact, nearly impossible to have any support for PTSD or treatment. And we are hearing this bill for the second time because there was some discussion at an earlier Finance Committee meeting regarding the impact on local governments and specifically what had happened in Virginia Beach and what that traumatic event had caused in terms of potential people who would be covered under legislation like this bill. This is not a presumption bill. I just want to make that very clear. This makes PTSD an occupational disease. So because you've heard it all before, I'm going to yield the remainder of my time to a couple of folks who are here to speak to this. One thing I did want to clarify is there was a conversation last time about the numbers of people. I think the number was 240 that was mentioned, that this could include if this legislation passed as a result of the Virginia Beach tragedy. And I think they did some research and they've concluded that there is one person currently now being treated and counseled for PTSD. So I think it's important that we clarify that. And I know it was very important for the first responders who wanted to be heard. So thank you very much.
Good morning,
Good
Madam
morning.
Chair. My name is Erin Rice, and I rise to speak on behalf of the Virginia Professional Firefighters. We do support the legislation and do want to clarify some of the numbers that were reported last meeting. The 240 number is basically just an exposure report, meaning that there were 240 people that responded to the scene and in some way had an exposure. It's very common for firefighters to do this when they respond to an incident, and they were actually instructed from the folks there in Virginia Beach and the risk management to provide that number. That does not mean that all of those individuals are seeking PTSD. We had one firefighter that I know of that is currently undergoing treatment, and I heard this morning there may be 3 or 4 police officers are currently receiving treatment. We just ask that you treat mental health and mental issues that our firefighters and police officers are experiencing much like you would treat any other injury that they have on the scene. And I'll yield the rest of my time to the brave ladies behind me from Virginia Beach.
Good morning, Senators. My name is Chelsea Lindemeyer, and I've worked for the Virginia Beach Police Department for the past 8 years. I'm married to my husband, who is also a police officer for the past 11 years in Virginia Beach. I'm here on behalf of my husband, who's currently on a no-duty status due to his PTSD diagnosis. In June 2017, while executing a search warrant, the suspect opened fire on them, shooting one of the officers twice, then trapping all 6 officers in a stairwell while continuing to shoot upon them. He was physically injured in this incident, but his mental injury was not dealt with. He suffered for 2 years from undiagnosed PTSD. On May 31st, my husband was one of the first officers into the building where a city employee was actively shooting people. He was heavily involved in the aftermath and remained in the building for over 4 hours, hearing the cell phones over and over again, ring over and over again. As a result of both mental injuries, he has been diagnosed with complex PTSD and is still trying to navigate workers' compensation due to the fact that they don't recognize PTSD in law enforcement. On top of that, the city has chosen cost over mental health by moving the police department headquarters into the same building that the shooting occurred. This bill would be a great start, and I fully support it for law enforcement. I just want to point out that it is important to incorporate the past, present, and future of this, of the first responders, including Virginia Tech and the Building 2 mass shooting. While we all agree that there has to be a starting point, we can't fail those that have already served and are currently serving. Let's not put cost above the mental health of our officers and our firefighters.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Detective Carrie Fair. I am a retired Virginia Beach Police Detective. I retired as a result of an injury sustained from the June 2017 shooting. I was one of the officers that was trapped in the stairwell. I was with her husband, Travis, during that time. It's my belief that he saved my life, and it offends me that I have received the help that I have needed because I have a physical injury, and that he hasn't and has had trouble receiving help that he needs because his is a mental health injury. I fully support anything PTSD related in this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, Wayne Huggins, State Police Association. For the reasons that have been stated, we support this bill. I could bring trooper after trooper after trooper in here, and by the way, I have several here with me today to recite similar types of stories where we get the help for our physical injuries, but we do not get the help for our mental injuries, and that's why this legislation is so very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to the bill? No, we have opposition.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm John Hurd here this morning on behalf of the Virginia Self-Insurers Association, which has local government members, and also Metis Holdings, Inc., which administers all the liability claims against VACO's risk pool. We have very serious cost concerns about this measure. As you know, JLARC came up with some numbers in their report. It's a wide range. That was based on the presumption. Quite frankly, we do not know what the total cost of this bill would be. And we are very concerned. It's gonna impact potentially 62,000 first responders is the information I've got. I am the gentleman that read the numbers on Virginia Beach. Those came directly from their risk manager as he reported that to City Council. And we would ask this committee to think long and hard before reporting a bill with this potential fiscal impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jeremy Bennett with the Virginia Association of Counties. We're not opposed to the intent of this bill. We want to take care of first responders, but we do have concerns about the potential fiscal impact.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the bill? Senator Hanger.
Madam Chair. There's a substitute on this?
Madam Chair, there was some discussion I just had with staff about whether or not we adopted the substitute at the last meeting. I think,
We have already adopted
okay,
the
great.
substitute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you have, thank you. Madam Chair?
Senator Hanger.
I guess the issue for me right now, last year, we benefited from a bit of a delay as JLARC was working on a study. This one, we may be able to hash this out during the session, but that's the concern I have right now in terms of the total impact, the substitute we have in front of us, as far as whether we should advance it and try to work issues out during this session, or whether it would be better to put it in the hands of people to work some of these details out and carry the bill over.
Madam Chair.
I really haven't made a decision on that myself.
Senator Sasslaw.
The number, that 62,000, is that he gave, was that the total amount of people who are first responders, or the total amount of people that have PTSD?
Senator Sasslaw, that was based on numbers that were contained in the JLARC report. I did the math, and that is not people with PTSD.
That's
that
a
is
total.
the number of total
First
potential
responders type
first responders.
potential. The only observation I'll make is that, the people who always oppose these bills, or bills similar to this, they all say, we want them to get help, and we need to take care of them, but then they add, as long as we don't have to pay for it. I don't know how you do that. And, these people put their lives on the line for us, and I just don't see how we can just say, well, we'll only pay for you if you're physically injured, but not as a result of the trauma you went through. You're having, self problems dealing with it. And I don't see how we can keep denying these people help, to be honest with you.
Senator Sasslaw, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to report the 561.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the substitute for 561 be reported. All in favor, record your vote aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. If I just might speak to Senator Hanger's one concern, because I think it might alleviate his concern a little bit, and that is the language of the substitute does incorporate some of the concerns that were raised related to cost, and it does attempt to mitigate as much of that as possible. It was a result of a conversation with all the stakeholders. They preferred this bill to some of the other iterations of the bill, and so this was hopefully at least as much as a compromise might be achieved. This was an effort to do that. So thank you, members of the committee, and also thank you for moving me out of order, out of respect for some heroes that came from Virginia Beach. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next alphabetically is Senator Eben, but I don't see him, so let's go to Senator Edwards. You have 5 bills.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to do these in chronological order. The first one is Senate Bill 453. It has to do with directing the Secretary of Transportation to evaluate the impact of increased fuel efficiency and increased use of hybrid and electric vehicles on transportation revenues. And secondly, the potential options to provide a sustainable funding stream for transportation infrastructure and report to the General Assembly no later than December the 10th, 2020. That's all it is. It's a Section 1 bill. I don't know of any opposition, but if there's no opposition, I move to report.
I was wondering if Jason could make some comments.
Madam Chair, Senator Edwards, the language included in Senate Bill 453 is identical to budget language that was included in item 433 of last year's Appropriations Act. The study was completed in January 13th of 2020, and Senate Bill 890 is the reflection of that study with respect to the progressive vehicle miles traveled registration fee.
Since this has already been done, would you like to strike your bill?
That'd be fine.
Okay. It's been moved, and is there a second to strike Senate Bill 453?
When was this report done?
It's done.
Madam Chair, Senator Edwards, the report was submitted on January 13th, 2020, and is posted on LIS.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of striking the bill, record your vote. Aye, opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the bill is stricken.
Senate Bill 536 has to do with incentives for telecommunications companies with regard to wireless broadband services. There is a recommended a line amendment on line B. Let me just explain what the bill does. It provides that the Tobacco Commission shall provide $50 million for grants for purchase and installation of wireless and broadband equipment to provide communication services in rural service areas of the Commonwealth. The rural service areas are defined as any locality with a mean broadband download speed of at least 10 megabits per second and a mean broadband upload speed of at least 1 megabit per second. And the line amendment in the next paragraph would say, rather than what's in here now, the commission shall follow the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative guidelines and requirements to seek public-private partnerships and award grants to provide service to unserved areas, as opposed to what's in here. I move the line amendment.
It's been moved. Is there a second for line amendment? Okay. All in favor of the line amendment, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So this is what it does.
Senator Edwards, you are taking a substantial amount of money out of the corpus of the ticker. And I believe we're going to be having ongoing discussions about how to deal with ticker over the next year.
And I would point out that it does not take any money from the general fund.
Right, but it is taking substantial money from the corpus of the ticker. And there are conflicting views on how that money might be spent. And there is a limit of how much we can take out a year in any event currently. And this is far in excess of that. So my personal suggestion is we carry this bill over so we can have a substantive discussion on the Tobacco Commission and which direction the committee would like to go.
I would make that motion.
You would make it too? Okay, thank you.
I would like to point out that the most important thing we can do for economic development in the rural areas is broadband. Without broadband, businesses aren't coming, and people are leaving the rural areas. And 43% of the people in the rural areas do not have broadband. And the rural areas are more than just the area of the Tobacco Commission. There are other parts of the state, too.
And there are substantial funds going into broadband.
Yes,
The
and
the administration
the
has.
general fund. This is non-general fund money.
Right,
This
okay.
is tobacco
We have a
money.
motion to carry. Yes.
Madam Chairman, just to respond to that, clearly I understand his reasoning, but the reality is that Southwest Virginia and Southern Virginia economically are challenged more than most of the state. So I hope that the committee will go along with this motion.
And again, the most important thing they can do is broadband. for
We have a
economic
motion to carry Senate Bill 536 over till next session. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
13 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstention.
13 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstention. The bill is carried over till the next session.
My next bill, Mr. Chair, has to do with Senate Bill 972. This is for our state troopers. Mr. President, we've seen what the state troopers have done to protect us in recent weeks, and they protect us every single year. When I was the United States Attorney, I worked very closely with the Virginia State Police on a number of matters. These are Virginia's finest, and they have been and continue to be underpaid. Wayne Huggins is here to speak on this bill, but I would first like to explain to you what this bill does. It went to Transportation. It's now come to the Finance Committee. And what this bill basically does, it sets up a public safety trust fund based on an additional registration fee each year of $1.25, starting July 1, 2020, and each year additional $1.20 until $12.50 on July the 1st, 2029. And the money goes into the Public Safety Trust Fund. It's a non-reverting fund, and it's to be used solely for the purposes of addressing staffing, retention, and pay suppression issues of the Department of State Police. Mr. President, with your indulgence, I would appreciate the opportunity of inviting Wayne Huggins, who represents the state police, to explain to you the crisis of the fact that our state police are underpaid and we're losing members of the state police because of that. And if you're indulgent, I'd like to invite Wayne.
If I remember correctly, Wayne, you already spoke to this bill, didn't you?
In transportation. But
Oh,
not
in
here.
transportation. Okay,
not
I'm
here.
sorry, I misunderstood.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Wayne Huggins with the State Police Association. 25 years ago, when I became superintendent of the state police, the problem I'm about to describe to you was about a $12 million a year problem. Fast forward to the year 2020, and this problem is today about a $27 million problem. What's the problem? As of this moment, we have 263 sworn vacancies in the field and another 156 civilian vacancies. If that's not bad enough, this year we have 315 people who are eligible to retire.
Right.
In the month of January, we lost 22 troopers, and we have already had 8 file their retirement papers for the months of March and April. Let's put some dollars and cents to it. We did a study last year where we looked at a period of time, 12-month period, between August 1st of 2018 and July 31st of 2019. During that one-year period, we had 80 troopers resign. Not retire, resign from the Department of State Police. What that cost the Commonwealth in their recruitment, their training, their equipment, their salary, their benefits for that 12-month period was $16.1 million. That's what we lost when those 80 troopers walked out the door. But the loss was actually twice that, because now we've got to turn around and reinvest that exact same amount of money to replace them. And the fact of the matter is, we currently have 38 troopers, 38 in the basic school. They will graduate toward the end of March. But by the end of March, we will have lost more than the 38 we're going to gain. The point is this: we are at crisis. This problem is getting worse. It's going to continue to get worse. Pay compression is the main culprit of this. And for those of you who may not know what pay compression means, these 5 state police officers right here are the walking, living embodiment of pay compression problems. And it's simply this: younger troopers are making the exact same amount of money as older troopers, and supervisors are making less than the people they supervise. How would that affect your morale? Well, the numbers don't lie, and that's how it's affecting the morale. You might ask, well, why are we doing this through special funding? Because for 25 years, we've been trying to get this done through general funding, and that hasn't worked. So we came to you with a problem. We have a solution, a pay plan that will solve this problem, and the vehicle that Senator Edwards has provided to make this problem go away once and for all. But we are at crisis. I'll close with this. Senator Edwards mentioned that you've seen a lot of the state police over the course of the last 4 weeks. I'm not being overly dramatic when I say to you that with 260 plus vacancies, 315 more able to retire, this time next year, it's a distinct possibility that we may not be able to provide the services to you that we have for the first 4 weeks of the 2020 legislative session. We need help. We need your support. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Senator Marsden.
Question for Wayne. We certainly recognize the problem, and this pay plan is not just merely more money to be distributed. It also restores, does it not, some kind of a step system wherein employees, when they're hired by the state police, can look into the future and say, this is what I'm likely to be making, adjusted for, inflation, and to let people know how they can plan their lives and look for the future. And is that just as an important piece of this as the actual money itself? Because it will separate out some of the compression issues and also allow people to plan their lives.
Senator Marsden hit the nail on the head, and I'd like to introduce you all to Senior Trooper Jessica Sheehan. She's a 13-year veteran of the state police, and right now she's assigned to recruiting. And let her have 30 seconds to tell you the burden she faces in trying to recruit young men and women into the state police, and it addresses your point.
Absolutely. What you just said is a huge problem that we have. Every day I speak to someone and they want to know what they're going to be making in 5 years and 10 years, and we're losing them to local jurisdictions because they're able to provide that information, whereas we can't. So they're leaving us to go to those jurisdictions, as well as people that are trying to come on with our department. I think it's important for you guys to recognize, too, that the troopers that are here that are helping us are working 12 and 13-hour days from all across the state. They're from 4 or 5 hours away, and they're not seeing their families until the end of the week. We're stretched thin as it is, and we're losing all these people. So it's super important, and we really appreciate that you guys take the time and consideration today.
One other thing about Trooper Sheehan, I mentioned that she's a 13-year veteran. Her husband is a 21-year veteran of the state police, special agent. 21 years, 13 years, they make the exact same amount of money. Pay compression.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there discussion on the bill?
Move to report.
It's been
Madam Chair.
moved and seconded. The bill be reported. Discussion. Senator Newman.
Madam Chair, I think that, we've been struggling with the same thing for a long time. My struggle, I think, this year is that we went back after the fee earlier, and the governor had talked about reducing it. Now we've increased it again. Now this is another increase. And also, at some point, we've got to take care of our state police. They are our state police with our money. And this year, we've got a couple $2 billion extra, and we're making priorities here and there. But one of the priorities is not to do this, or even in a more permanent way. So, Madam Chairman, I think my struggle is that I don't think there is a year where you can have too much money that you don't have to also raise additional self-supported taxes. So that's my struggle.
Madam Chair?
Senator Marsden.
One additional point is that while this is the tip of the spear, compression and pay problems exist throughout all of our state agencies. And while certainly there's a priority here because of public safety, we can't forget the other people in social services, in healthcare, in all of the state agency corrections who need similar relief. And we have to look to a long-term solution, hopefully after we get this done. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I might point out
Senator
also
Edwards.
the DMV is no longer pursuing the amendment they talked about in transportation. That's not part of it. And the DMV is not requesting it.
Jason.
Madam Chair, the bill that came from transportation does have the DMV amendment included in it. So that is in
I
the bill
move that we delete that DMV
No,
amendment.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator Hanger.
Is there some type of clause we could put on this and advance it? I think the debate really needs to be in the budget. We really need to put the money there to pay for it, and it should be a priority. I think 3 years ago, we made a significant bump in starting pay for state troopers, and that may have contributed to compression because I'm not sure that we added sufficient amounts to deal with compression. But it's an issue we're going to have to address within the budget. And also, Madam Chair, I would share when we do that, there's always the interplay with the local law enforcement, so the sheriffs are going to want more money too when we do this. So it's complicated. But I don't want to stop this bill, but if there were a clause we could put on it where we could do something different.
Madam Chair.
Senator Sasslaw?
Yeah, I would really be opposed to the clause. Every time we put a clause on, it stays on. And I remember just 2.5 weeks ago on January 20th, there were 22,000 people there, of which they estimate 12 to 16,000 had guns. There wasn't a single incident as a result of the work of the state police and the Capitol Police and the Richmond Police. And next year, if this same demonstration occurred next year, they're not going to be there, and we're going to have a problem, and we need to deal with this. And quite frankly, $1.25 this year and $12.50 by 2030 is chump change, and we need to get moving with it.
Madam Chair, I would like
Senator
to, I've been
Edwards.
requested by DMV to remove the amendment that was put on in transportation. So I make that motion. that the
It's been moved that the
be
the
deleted.
transportation amendment be removed.
Madam
Is
Chair.
that in this bill?
What is the amendment?
It had to do with money that would go to DMV for collecting this money, and they've requested that be
Lisa?
taken off the budget, taken off the bill.
Madam Chair, the amendment specified that a small percentage of the fees collected would be retained by DMV for administrative costs. We heard in the Transportation Committee that DMV is responsible for paying credit card fees when they process transactions, and that the bulk of these registration fees would be paid by credit card fees. So the amendment was to keep them whole.
Okay. Does that, everyone understand that? All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye.
Keeping the amendment.
Removing the amendment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, removing the.
Yeah, removing the amendment.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. Now we have the bill before us, which has been, we have a motion and a second to report Senate Bill 972. Further discussion? All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
Thirteen ayes, 2 nays.
13 ayes, 2 nays. The bills are reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. The final bill is Senate Bill 990. This has to do with grants to the for tourism for the airline system, and I don't think there's any opposition to this. It would be create a state in the State Treasury a special non-reverting fund known as the Governor's New Airline Service Incentive Fund, referred to as a fund, and it would receive donations to assist airlines in recruiting more air traffic in Virginia. We desperately need this. In the Roanoke area, we desperately need it in order to bring in more airlines to travel to other cities. The former delegate Chip Woodrum referred to airline passengers in the Roanoke area as pedestrians. We do have some good airlines, and we do have some good routes, but we don't have enough. And this is simply to assist in that
Chair.
process.
Yes, Senator Newman.
Madam Chair, just so we can get this in order, I would move that my bill, which is Senate Bill 984, which is identical, be rolled into Senator Edwards' bill, which is 990.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 984 be rolled into 990. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. Is there,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
is there anyone who wants to speak to the bill?
Thanks, Madam
Thanks.
Chair. Terry Durkin, Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce. We thank Senator Edwards for bringing this bill, and we strongly support it.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Cooper, Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority, Dulles, and Reagan National Airport. So as the Senator said, the problem that, first of all, thank you to Senator Newman and to Senator Edwards for bringing this forward. The problem they're trying to solve is this. Within the state budget process, there is no way to attract new air passenger service that might want to come to Virginia's rural and urban areas, even if that service is of substantial economic benefit to the Commonwealth. So the bill is modeled exactly upon existing state code for the Port of Virginia Opportunity Fund, which gives the governor capacity to bring new port business to Virginia. It's a $2 million incentive fund, exactly as the senator's bill, to develop and implement a marketing program that brings incentives for new port service to Virginia. That's working remarkably well. There is no equal facility for airports in Virginia. So that's the problem that the senators are trying to solve, and we would substantially support the senator's efforts.
Madam Chair.
Look forward to support.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Newman.
My bill, and I think maybe John's bill had an amendment related to Dulles. Maybe John's bill does not have to have that amendment. Is the bill in the place it needs to be to deal with Dulles Airport?
Senator, I'm sorry, please excuse me, I don't understand the question.
There was a need to make sure that we weren't giving money directly to airlines, which was opposed to federal law, and we was make sure that that tweak is in the final bill that we're about to vote on.
The bill that's before you in its current posture fixes that issue.
Okay.
It does go to airlines and not airports, because airports can't be involved in that negotiation between the state. Yes,
Thank
Senator,
you.
thank you for bringing that forward.
If I could ask staff, are there any other needed amendments?
Madam Chair, there was one other staff recommendation, which was to add on line 20 after B, revenues in the fund shall be used to support the development of additional commercial air services in the Commonwealth, provided that such service advances the goals established in the Commercial Air Service Plan most recently adopted pursuant to citation. Prior to the use of funds pursuant to this section, the Virginia Tourism Board shall certify that the use of such funds cannot reasonably be anticipated to result in the reduction of existing commercial air service at another airport located within the Commonwealth, which I believe is language that's included in the omnibus transportation bill as well.
Madam Chair, it was included in the introduced version of Senate Bill 890. It was removed from the committee's substitute. The discussion around the topic was that recruitment and economic development incentives, when deployed by the Commonwealth, are better suited from general funds than non-general funds, and that the Tourism Board was a more appropriate entity than the Department of Aviation to administer the program.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Clayton Medford, Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, ask you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Newman.
Maybe to Jason. So if we put money into this fund, they're not going to be able to use it for whatever they want. It would still be dedicated to this fund. It would just be the tourism guys that would be actually doling out the money. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Senator Newman, yes, that is correct.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, yes. I believe we need an amendment, that's what. Okay, the amendment's been moved, and is there a second? Okay, all in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Amendment's adopted. It's been moved and seconded, the bill be reported as amended. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, no.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
16 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Madam Chair,
Bill's
members of the
reported.
committee.
Thank you. I'm handing the gavel over to Senator Barker because alphabetically my bill 576 is next.
Senator Howell.
Thank you. This is a bill that's been in the making for more than a year, close to a year and a half. Or you put it in last year, and everyone sort of felt it was a great idea, but not quite ready. And since then, Robbie DeMira and the administration have been working full-time trying to put all the pieces together for a Virginia Innovation Partnership Authority. At the moment, I'm very pleased to report that everybody is on board. And I would like to refer any questions anyone may have to Robbie DeMira.
Are there any questions for Robbie DeMira?
Madam Chair,
I believe we have a substitute.
Yeah.
We do have a substitute.
Move the substitute.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the substitute. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The substitute's before us. Now, are there any questions of the Deputy Secretary? So,
Mr. Chair, there are a few of the supporters here today that would like to be able to say a few supporting comments when appropriate. So I just want to.
all right, well, if there are no questions of the patron or the Deputy Secretary, we'll take public testimony now. Those in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Carrie Roth. I am President and CEO of Activation Capital in the Virginia BioNTech Research Park, just located a couple of streets down here. And I also formerly served as Deputy Secretary of Commerce and Trade for the Commonwealth of Virginia and worked with many of you on these initiatives. It's really imperative that we pull together these organizations. Many of our companies are beneficiaries of a couple of these different programs, but it takes a lot of time and energy for the founders to be able to harness this energy and really to be able to move forward their company along with it. So we hope that it'll be the pleasure of the committee to vote in approval of this bill. Thank you.
All right, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eric Risen with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. We thank the Senator and the administration for their hard work on this initiative, and we wholeheartedly support the bill. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Troy Murphy with the Northern Virginia Technology Council. We really appreciate the work that's gone into this bill over the past year and ask that you support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Terry Durkin, Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce, and we strongly support the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Nick Surface. I'm the Executive Director of the Richmond Technology Council. We represent about 160 corporate enterprise and startup companies here in town, and we wholeheartedly support this bill and hope you will too. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Clayton Medford, Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, asks that you support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Scott Pedowitz with the Arlington Chamber of Commerce, and we also support the bill.
Thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair. Fran Bradford, Deputy Secretary of Education. We've worked closely with the institutions on this bill and wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to the bill? All right. All right, it's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Any further discussion? All right, we'll vote on the board.
$15 ayes, 1 nay.
The bill is reported.
Thank you. Senator Locke, you have Senate Bill 421.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are some technical amendments to the bill that correct some dates and a drafting error.
So is there a motion to adopt the technical amendments and drafting error? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Amendments pass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 421 was thoroughly discussed and debated in Commerce and Labor. And this legislation is comprehensive, is a comprehensive lending reform that targets predatory lending practices, but still ensures widespread access to affordable credit. The bill addresses all aspects of this: payday lending, title lending, online lending, consumer finance, and open credit loans. I brought this bill forward because Virginia has some of the weakest laws in the country for payday and title loans. The same lenders are charging Virginians 3 times more than what they charge people in other states. This is unacceptable, and Virginia consumers deserve access to credit with affordable payments and reasonable time to repay. The goal is to close the loopholes, insert consumer protection guardrails, and ensure access to credit for all Virginians. This is basically what the bill does.
Would anyone like to speak in favor of the bill? Good morning.
Good morning. Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Dave Irvin. I'm with the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Section. The Attorney General supports the bill. We believe the bill, as the patron said, will provide comprehensive reform to and modernize our consumer finance laws in ways that will expand access to affordable consumer credit. Most importantly, the bill closes 3 loopholes that exist in our laws now. It will require consumer finance companies that operate over the internet to become licensed in Virginia. They're not required to do so now. It will limit the interest rates and fees that consumer finance companies can charge on loans in excess of $2,500. They are not limited under current law, and the law will limit the interest rates and fees that open-end credit companies can charge. There are no limits on what those lenders can charge now. We believe the bill provides for a consistent consumer credit policy. The rules that are established will apply equally to internet and brick-and-mortar companies. Finally, to the bottom line, the policies that are established here and the framework that is established will encourage lenders to offer borrowers having a temporary emergency, encourage them to offer a life preserver or a life raft. Some of the laws that we have on the books right now only authorize or encourage lenders to provide an anchor that leads to a debt spiral and eventually bankruptcy. We urge you to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Lauren Schmidt on behalf of the Virginia Poverty Law Center. We support this bill. I think Senator Locke explained what the bill does and why we support it. I just want to touch on that many of the companies that do oppose this bill still operate in states that have passed similar reforms and offer the same loans at rates 3 times lower than they do to Virginians. So this bill is not about putting lenders out of business. It's just making sure that Virginians have access to credit on more fair terms. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Dana Wiggins with the Virginia Partnership to Encourage Responsible Lending. We support the measures in this bill. We deal with a lot of consumers that are having issues with a lot of the loans currently on the market, particularly internet loans, where folks are being sued in courts in Virginia, are being harmed by lenders that do not choose to follow Virginia rules currently. And so we're thankful that Senator Locke put this bill in to help deal with a lot of the issues that borrowers face on all levels and closing all the loopholes so that there's one set of rules for both lenders and borrowers to know what's happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there opposition to the bill?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Scott Johnson. I represent Community Loans of America. One thing you ought to know is process. In 2010, you passed a statute for my client and many others that do car title lending, and you put in statute what the interest rates were, what the client protections had to be, and that came as a result of a mediated process that took place in the summer of 2009. This bill has not had a similar process where stakeholders were brought together over the summer and looked at this issue. This process was a bill first being seen by us when it was filed at the beginning of session, followed by a 69 to 70 page substitute. What I handed out up there, or what staff did for me, and I thank them, it shows you in the middle column what the rules of the road are in the statute that you have today, and on the right-hand side, it would show you what would happen under Senator Locke's bill. In short, Community Loans has operated in Ohio, and Ohio passed something similar. Their stores closed. Similar law was passed in Colorado. Community Loans operated there. They closed their stores. Well, guess what's going to happen here? If this goes into effect, You've basically cut 80% of the margin out of the business. You've put in increased risk. The stores will close. People will be laid off. So what does this bill benefit? It brings in a new concept called access partners. Commissioner Face testified in Commerce and Labor that he hadn't heard about that phrase until about 3 weeks ago. We would ask you to slow down the trains, let the Bureau of Financial Institutions take a meaningful look at this and report back to you. And with that, Madam Chairman, I'd like to introduce Bob Reach, President of Community Loans.
I'd just like to mention that we're going to need to rise in about 4 minutes, so you have total of about 3 minutes. Okay.
Madam Chairman, thank you. I'll try and be very expedient. I'm here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 421. I take issue with previous testimony by the Poverty Center that says a company like ours can continue to exist. There is no other statute that is as constraining in the rest of the country on title lenders as this one is. We closed our stores in Ohio. We closed our stores in Colorado, and those stores were making both secured and unsecured loans. The primary reason, though, I'm in opposition to this bill is that it is just bad policy. This bill has the impact of like pushing on a rope. It attempts to treat a symptom of a problem as opposed to the problem themselves. What is the problem? The problem is that upwards of 1 million people within the state of Virginia
Could you
can't
wrap
qualify.
up so others will have an opportunity?
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Nicole Brenner with Reed Smith on behalf of the Online Lenders Alliance. I'd like to focus on a couple things that this legislation does that's a little bit different than what you've heard before. This legislation authorizes new business models that Virginia has previously prohibited, like brokering and payroll deduction. This means that an unlicensed and unregulated lending entity receives money to broker loans. They give out money and take payments without licensing oversight from BFI. This business model has only previously been approved in one other state, and other states have declined to approve this business model. In California, where this is used, the California Department of Business Oversight publishes an annual report. In 2018, they said that lenders who used access partners saw their credit scores go down or stagnate, while approximately 2/3 of borrowers who did not work with an access partner saw their credit score increase. On payroll deduction, this means that a borrower's funds are taken out of their paycheck, and so they are not deciding when and how much to pay a lender or their other bills. This also means that their employer knows they've taken out a loan.
Nicole, can you wrap up, please?
Sure.
We're
Brokering,
literally out of time.
Understood. Brokering, payroll deduction, and lenders who can only offer $300 is not widespread access to credit.
Thank you.
Good morning. Dave Alba on behalf of Opportune, which is a lender. We want to draw your attention to lines 145, which exempts access partners from licensure. What this bill does is allows these access partners, which are just like brokers, who go out and meet people who need money, and then they bring them to the lenders. And the bill has the lenders overseeing these access partners. It doesn't have the Bureau of Insurance. We'd like to see the bill be amended so that the access partners are regulated directly by the Bureau of Insurance.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Guy Rolling. I represent Access Financial, which is headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio. Make no mistake about it. This bill is designed to put us out of business. We operate in Ohio under the Ohio law. Under that law, over 800 consumer finance stores closed their doors in Ohio. My client is going to close 90% of his offices in Ohio within the next 60 days. This bill will put us out of business.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, B. Gonzalez, I'll be very quick. We kept our payday license and are fully regulated. You cannot loan more than $500. This changes our entire business model. In 2007, there were 832 payday locations. Regulations worked. Today, there's 161 locations. There were 12 complaints last year on payday loans, which are regulated, unsecured. We don't report to credit bureaus. Our average loan is about $300. So we'd like the way things are right now and oppose this bill. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Reggie Jones representing Advance America. Advance America has been in business in Virginia since the original Payday Loan Act was passed. I appreciate what Senator Locke is trying to do and trying to find
how we can get at some of the issues that are raised. But I do not believe that this is a clear approach to it, and we really need to look into it in much more depth to determine what the difference would be in getting rid of basically the lenders are here today and bringing in a whole new set of lenders under rules that are different from what we have today. It is too much, too soon, and I hope that you'll take a deep look at it with the Bureau of Financial Institutions. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Travis Bussey, and I'm with Title Max, and we operate 79 stores in the Commonwealth with over 200 employees, and this legislation will eliminate access to credit as well as eliminate jobs in Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Robert Barata here today on behalf of Check in the Cash. We have 29 stores, 100 employees in the Commonwealth, and we will close as a result of this legislation. We oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we are out of time, but you were only a minute past, so that's great. Is there a motion on the bill?
Madam Chair, just really quickly, the substitute was out in the House long before it came over to the Senate, so it was available to those who wish to see it, and I'm sure that they opposed it in the House as well. And I want to note that this legislation also includes legislation that was brought forth by Senator Serovo, and this bill is supported by the Attorney General's office as well as the administration. And I want to thank those who did oppose this legislation and had the courtesy to speak to me. Several in the line did not. And I would like to move that this bill be reported.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded the
Madam
bill be
Chairman,
reported.
Before
Senator Ruff.
Before we vote, I think it's important to understand that when North Carolina made the decision to end this, the bad check fees that the banks took in skyrocketed. So instead of loaning money, people wrote bad checks, and those percentages ended up, in a lot of cases, a lot higher than any of the companies are charging.
Madam Chair.
Senator Newman.
Well, this is complex, and I know those of you on Commerce and Labor know just how complex this bill was, but there are we're opening new avenues. I've been one that's not been very supportive of a payday, as most people know over the years, but I'm deeply concerned. We're setting up something that we don't really understand with access partners, and we're going to allow them for the first time to link to your checking account and take money from you when they decided they want to. That's in the bill, that's what they're going to do. And I just don't think we should go that far, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think as a vehicle to do something we can work on this. I thought we were moving toward a consensus, and obviously the consensus hasn't been reached. And I'd really like another day for at least some amendments to be offered rather than pushing this through today. And I understand, we need to clear the docket.
We do.
But we also don't need to pass legislation that isn't ripe yet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we
Senator-
spent an hour and a half on this legislation in Commerce and Labor.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to report the bill. All in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, no.
11 ayes, 5 nays.
11 ayes, 5 nays, the bill's reported. And we still have numerous bills, which will have to be on the docket tomorrow, which is already long, so let's be brief tomorrow. Thank you. The committee may rise.